I've been using ChatGPT for almost 3 years since it first came out. Over that time, I've seen GPT go from an unreliable chatbot to a fully fledged AI assistant. Now you can code almost any application, create amazing images, and in many ways, it's genuinely smarter than us now. And with some of the new updates on GPT, I thought it was the perfect time to do an ultimate guide, compressing my last 3 years of knowledge into one video with all of the tips and tricks that I've learned over the journey, including all of the new ChatGPT features. Today, I'm going to be showing you some of the ways that I personally use GPT to scale my 30-person AI media company, and it's helped me generate over $5 million in digital product sales and $20 million in agency revenue. It's one of my powerhouse AI work tools, and I can't wait to show you more. This video is applicable to beginners if you've literally never used ChatGPT before, but even if you're a seasoned ChatGPT user, I'm sure you're going to get some value out of this video, because I'm almost willing to bet that you're probably not using the tool right. There are probably features that you didn't even know exist that can help you maximize the value out of your subscription. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. All right, firstly, I just want to give you a quick tour around the app. I'm going to be using the desktop app in today's video because it's the most powerful, but a lot of these features are also available on mobile. Obviously, this is the chat bar where you can start typing and prompting. If you click the plus button, this enables you to upload files. Uploading files will help GPT get more context. You can get it to review documents. You can get it to summarize articles, images, whatever you want. If you click on this globe button here, it opens up a search function. So instead of using Google, you can search in GPT, allowing you to follow up query. If you click on agent, this is very cool. It opens up a ChatGPT agent function, which basically lets you complete a workflow. The simple difference between an agent and a chatbot is that an agent can do things on your behalf. It's pretty similar to what a Manus can do, for example, but built into ChatGPT. And later on in today's video, I'm going to show you ChatGPT Codex, which is part of your subscription, but it's a separate app. And that's how you can unlock the full power of AI agents within ChatGPT. If you click on this icon, here's how you choose the model. Now, I pretty much always use 5.5 thinking. By the time you're watching this, maybe they've launched another model. I know they are gearing up for the ChatGPT 6 launch later in the year. The app doesn't change that much, so most of the information in this video should still be relevant, and some of these principles are going to apply for months, if not years in AI, just due to the way that LLMs are constructed. But this is how you can actually select how long it thinks. I wouldn't keep it on auto because I find the responses aren't that great. I find if it's on thinking, it thinks longer and it just gives you better answers. If you click Pro, this is for research grade intelligence. So if I was doing a research report or something really complex where I wanted to really drill into some data, I'd use Pro. Like when I research financial markets, for example, and I want to dig deep inside a sector or a stock, I use Pro, and the outputs are fantastic, but it can literally take up to an hour or even a few hours if you have a really deep research task. So for day-to-day use thinking. It takes a little bit longer than instant, but it's just going to give you a better response. And honestly, I don't trust anything else apart from thinking. And then of course you got the legacy models, but none of these are very good. So you may as well just use the newest model. Unless of course you're on the free subscription or you're trying to really cost save, then you could jump down to another model. But just know that the newest models are always going to be the smartest. There are some ways that you can actually reduce your token expenditure, and I've got another video on that if you want to check that out later. I did it for Claude, but the logic pretty much applies exactly the same to ChatGPT. There are things that you can do to significantly reduce the amount of tokens that you burn through. On the left-hand side of the application, this is where you have all of your chats. Now, the mistake a lot of people make is they just open new chats every time they have a new topic. That's okay, only if it's inside a project. So what you really want to do is create projects for specific things. For example, if you click on new project, I can create a project for investing, and the investing project will house all of the chats regarding my investment portfolio, my investment research. So it's all in one place, because the way ChatGPT works is if you have something in a project, it can read other chats from the same project, which increases how much it's able to remember. It's also just a good way to keep things organized. So you can have investing, you can create a custom project called business. You can have a strategy one. I highly recommend that you actually break it up into categories like strategy, personal, finance, health, and break everything up and have specific instructions for each project. So what you can do when you're creating a project is you can go into the top right-hand corner, you can click edit instructions. This is how you can enter in exactly how you want ChatGPT to react. For example, in investing, you might have an instruction saying, remain unbiased, challenge my opinions, act as a McKinsey level Goldman Sachs consultant to give me the best advice, answer in a concise manner to save on token cost, and very importantly, in any instruction that you create, have a line saying, every time I give you new, relevant information, make sure to save it to my memory. That alone significantly increases the amount that GPT is able to remember. And all AI models are just way more effective when they actually remember the context that you've given it. And of course, what I also recommend doing when you set up a project is preloading context. So next to chat, there's something called sources. If you click on sources, this gives you the ability to add documents. What you can do is actually go into the chat, ask it, hey, ask me 15 questions about my financial situation. You voice prompt, you answer them all, and then you can use those answers to create a one-pager document that you can chuck into sources. So now anytime you ask ChatGPT an investing related question, it's going to know exactly who you are, your situation, your income, your financial goals, and then periodically you can just do a brainstorming session and update this information. Now there are ways to get more precise memory collection. You can use an external memory database. You can store your memory locally and use Codex, which is GPT's coding tool, to update a local memory system, but that's all more complex stuff that I talk about in separate videos. If you're just going to use the application, you need to make the most of the inbuilt features, and this is ChatGPT's inbuilt way of you giving it context. Later in the video, I'm going to show you GPTs, which are one of the highest leverage ways that you can get the most out of ChatGPT. GPTs turn GPT from a chatbot into an expert in any particular department. That is going to be very useful. But first, let's dive into some of the key features that GPT has to offer that most people aren't taking advantage of. All right, one thing ChatGPT is so good at now is image generation. It honestly has the best image generation model in the world. And I'm going to give you an example. So I posted in a prompt here, which is going to generate an architectural concept sketch for a house. And it's going to give me the floor plan and a photorealistic design. This will give you an idea as to how good it is, but it can do anything. It can do commercial images. It could do real life photography. It could do landscapes. It's such a crazy image model. And I highly recommend leveraging this. If you ever want to visualize something, let's say in your head, or whether you want to create something for your work, GPT Images is fantastic. All right, the images are now generated. You can see it's created a sketch, it's created a plan, and it's created mock realistic 3D imagery, which by the way, you can actually keep prompting to get the exact design you want. So you can keep iterating, but this was a one-shot prompt and I mean, it looks pretty cool. There's a lot you can do with this. And you can just do this within the normal chat bar. It's not a separate application. If you're a creative, like if you're on Instagram or if you're a thumbnail designer for YouTube, I think you're going to find this very helpful as well. We're also using GPT Images across multiple facets of the media business. All right, another feature of GPT that's absolutely amazing is data analysis. So here I've put in all of my YouTube videos and a bunch of corresponding data like views, impressions, etc. And here I'm going to ask it to analyze all of this as a data analyst for AI Edge. And it's going to tell me what my content strategy should be based on the data. And if you look at the spreadsheet, there's a lot of raw analytics here, but GPT really excels at analyzing data. So if you do this in your work, or if you want to do this with your own finances, this is something where GPT is genuinely super productive. As you can see, it's analyzed all of the data and it's given me a full report on what my next video ideas should be with a filming plan. And I could even feed it my YouTube transcripts and have it analyzed at what points retention dropped off. And of course, you can actually automate this on Codex, which I'll show you shortly. So you don't even have to do this stuff manually, but I wanted to show you how you can take data entry and distill it down. And if you want my full framework to maximize GPT, I'm gonna leave a free PDF below for those who follow the link and join our community. That document's gonna have all the tips and tricks from today's video distilled into one single format that you can actually take and put into GPT so it can help you set up your GPT in the best way. It goes through projects, custom GPTs, tips and tricks, saving memory, and more. So you can claim that using the link below. Next, I quickly just wanted to go into some prompting tips and tricks because most people prompt wrong. So remember, prompting is all about context. Now you should have already set up a project where you're prompting within, so it should already have details about you, but you still want to give it as much context as possible relating to the specific scenario at hand. So if I have to make a big strategic business decision, I'll say, hey, I'm thinking about launching a new offer. I'm not sure if this price point is the correct one. Could you please ask me 10 questions to understand my problem better? And then I'll hit enter and it'll ask me 10 questions. And then I'll go on voice mode, and sometimes I'll just pace around on my phone and answer these questions. And I'll say, hey, based on these 10 questions, ask another 10 questions to get to the bottom of it. And then I'll answer those 10 questions. And then now it's got all this context. So now we can finally drill into the problem. Whereas most people, when they're prompting, they're like, hey, I don't know whether to do this or do that. It's like, all right, it'll give you a generic answer based on its training, but it's not going to be specific to you. So if you want a proper answer, you have to give it the proper context. I find the question answer approach is by far the best way to go about prompting. All right, now let's talk about the source in terms of making GPT even more effective. And this is using GPTs. So projects are basically workspaces. GPTs, they're repeatable assistants. So like Claude skills, they're trained on a specific task. So it might be a writing coach. It might be a thumbnail coach. It might be an investing expert. And it's just trained to do one specific thing very well. Now, if you click on GPTs, you basically open up a library of top picks, which are ranked. So you can actually look at GPTs that other people and other companies have created. So for research and analysis, there's a finance GPT. For writing, there's an AI humanizer GPT. These are out-of-the-box solutions, essentially, that are going to make ChatGPT so much better at specific tasks. Most people are just using the chats without knowing that there are experts actually within the app that you can download. Now, the real trick is to create your own custom GPTs. For this, you need to get out of the application and onto the desktop application. If you click Explore GPTs, in the top right-hand corner, you can click Create. Under the Create section, you can create a custom assistant, which can be trained on one specific thing. So you just need to type in what you want it to become. For example, I want a creative who helps generate visuals for new products. You click Enter, and it will go through the process of customizing the GPT to what you want. You could create a custom writing GPT to write just like you. You could create a custom hook generator GPT to create viral hooks for social media posts based on exactly what you want. Remember, the more data that you give it up front, the more specificism that you give it up front, the more accurate it's going to be in executing repeatable tasks for you. Think of it as a custom assistant trained to do one thing very well. Once you start using a custom GPT, it'll open up its own chat. You can then move it into the specific project that you want it in. That way it can tap into even more context. So it's got all of the context from the project, and it's also got the context that the GPT is trained on. It's a double whammy. All right, I've shown you two things which can really level up your game: projects and utilizing GPTs. To take it a step further, and this is a bit more advanced, but I think it's something that you need to know if you're going to get into GPT, I'm going to show you how to use ChatGPT Codex. Now, Codex is only available as a separate application that you can download onto your computer. It's basically the coding terminal that allows you to edit local files on your computer or generate code, and it's part of your ChatGPT subscription. Obviously though, it'll burn through tokens, so you have to be careful with how you use it unless you're on the much more expensive plans. Although Codex is in the name, I want to be very clear here. This isn't just for coding. This is the way that GPT can access local files. So you know the memory setup I showed you before? You need to upload files. Codex can tap into a local folder on your computer, meaning you can create a memory system inside one folder that you control instead of GPT, which is more of a black box because you don't have control over the exact memory. You have control over what files you put in, but not the exact memory. Codex also allows you to have automations. So you know the agents we discussed before? These agents can now do repeatable tasks on an automated basis. So hey, every single day at 10 a.m., I want you to review this Google Sheet, summarize the data for me, and send me an alert every morning. Or generate a market report, tell me what happened in financial markets overnight, and automatically have it ping to my Telegram and give me an update. All of this stuff you can build through Codex and automation. So don't just think of it as coding. It's the way for GPT to tap into your computer to actually do stuff on your computer. Whereas the GPT application, it's more of a chatbot. Yes, you've got agents and web search within it. Yes, you've got deep research and GPTs. It's more convenient because it's on your phone, but Codex is the way that you can go to the next level. This is a beginner's guide. So if you do want a guide to Codex, subscribe to the channel. We'll do one in the future, but I'm trying to keep this a little more simple today whilst still explaining what it is in case you want to take that step further. So for example, I can build a habit tracking dashboard, which gamifies my habits. I can click send and it's going to start coding it in front of me. And Codex, unlike the other application, enables you to see artifacts, similar to what the default Claude desktop app will do. So you can actually have visual representations on the right side of your screen while you're chatting and you've got code on the left-hand side of screen. I think for more advanced users, you'll probably be interfacing more with Codex than the ChatGPT app itself, because once you understand how to plug into an external memory system, you'll probably use Codex as the main way to interact with that system. But for beginners, you don't need this. This is like an extra step if you want to get advanced. For beginners, learning to master the natural context, GPTs, and memory systems within GPT is going to get you 80% of the way there. And if you want to get to that extra 20% of really automating workflows, then obviously the only way to do it is through building it on Codex. And we'll have way more content on that coming out in the future. So as you can see, it just created the habit dashboard. If we click open, as I explained before, you actually get an artifact opening in the right, which is like a gamified dashboard to track habits. This literally took a minute. This is very, very basic. You could use this to create a full personal operating system, which is actually something that I've done. And this dashboard actually controls my entire life. I used a mix of Codex and Claude Design to build it. It's been such a game changer for me. But this is the type of stuff that you can now do with AI. So if you keep going down the rabbit hole like I have, you'll also be able to do this stuff. So I guess the last thing we need to discuss is the pricing of ChatGPT. Which plan do I think is actually worth it? Well, in my opinion, the $20 plan is the starting point that you want if you can afford it, because you want advanced reasoning with 5.5 thinking. This is the best model, and GPT-6 and all of the new models, they're going to go straight to the plus plan. So free and go for me aren't really that usable. Like, it's okay if you want a bit of news or you want something quickly generated, but the quicker you're able to go from free to plus, the better in my opinion. Now, going from plus to pro and then even beyond that with tokens and APIs, etc., that really depends on whether you're a power user or not. Personally, I chew through my pro plan and I'm spending $500 to $1,000 a month because I'm doing a lot of coding and because I have APIs and all this crazy stuff. But before I was building all this stuff, when I was just a power user, I was fine on the pro plan, and I probably in some cases could have even gotten away with the plus plan. So I think the best way to go is try and get to plus as soon as possible. See how it goes. If you feel like you're lacking in terms of your limits or you want the extra features that come with pro, as you can see in front of you, only then go and upgrade, but you don't need to jump straight to pro from the get-go unless you're a power AI user and you know you'll use it a lot. I actually have multiple subscriptions, so I'll use GPT in tandem with Claude. So I'll actually have both subscriptions, and I'll use Claude for things that Claude's really good at, like writing and UI and design. And I'll use GPT for strategic thinking and to be my second brain because it's slightly smarter. So that is my guide to ChatGPT. Remember, if you use the link in the description below, you can get access to my full cheat sheet, which puts all the information from this video into an actionable document that you can give to GPT to help maximize your usage on the application. And if you want more content like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. See you later. Peace out.